I'm just going to get in here real quick, make sure the headers are tight. This has got to be the first header ever that you can get at every header bolt with an extension and a socket. Amazing. Driver's side's buried a bit more, but other than other components in the way, looks like we can still access everything the way we need to. Now, one bolt is tough to get at. Looks like it's a little rounded already. So we'll get all the other ones and spend a bit more time on fixing that one that's rounded. Our damaged header bolt. So this is the one that was kind of tucked behind one of the primaries. So the problem is how it gets rounded is because the socket can't engage fully onto the head. It's kind of at an angle, and then if you try to force it, it basically rounds the head. So that's going to be a problem on that one. So basically I don't have a replacement header bolt. So I'm going to take this one out of the hard to get to area, and I'm going to put it into an easy to access one, so something that I can get onto with a 6-point socket. In the hard to get to spot, I'm going to put one of the other bolts, and I'm going to make sure that we use a wrench to tighten that one, so then we won't have any problems. There you go, problem solved. So this one here is the hard to get to area. I don't know if you can see, but it's tucked behind the second primary. So we'll thread that in by hand, and then we'll get a wrench on there and get it tightened up. The one with the damaged head is still okay, and we're going to put that into where we stole the good bolt from. And at this spot, we can get in there with an extension and a socket, nice 6-point, so we can tighten it up without any risk of rounding or stripping that bolt head. Headers, header bolts, it's always a combination of modifying tools, sockets, extensions, what have you. There you go. Tight. Let's figure out why this rad is sitting funny. So I know Sean has a different upper rad support, so that's not an issue. Missing one of these saddle pads, or whatever you want to call them. I think that one was in backwards, so it should sit like that. Maybe. Well, it has it leaning like it was before. Maybe the lower pads go the other way. Nope. That little pin only fits one way. It's not centered. So I guess it's supposed to sit at an angle. Huh, who'd have thunk it? So this is still bugging me, just because it doesn't seem right. And because we don't have a reference on how it was previous, I'm just going to go with what seems right. If we flip that upper bushing so that it brings the top inwards, and we just ignore that little grommet pin or dowel, then at least this thing will be straight. Sean, like I said, has a different upper radiator bracket, so I'm not going to cut that off. And hopefully he has the other pad for the other side. But if we just ignore that and look at how that cradles the radiator and how it holds it into position, now that radiator is looking a lot more straight up and down. That looks better to me. It's either that or we flip the bottom ones to move it out, but I kind of like this better because it fits the shroud of the rad support better. So let's just snug it down and see how we like it. Is that better? Ish. Reasonable. Other thing we're going to do is we're going to get this fan shroud fitted. Ooh, this hasn't even been out of the bag. Sorry, Sean, taking your fan out. Okay, let's see how this fits up in there. Interesting. I mean, it fits in the pocket of the core real nice. I'm not quite sure about how they want to attach it. I'll show you what I mean. I got to pull this back off. So they got these little attachment tabs that you'd think you would just screw into the upper mount or the bottom shroud bracket, something like that. But it goes into the upper piece of the core. So gotta look. Oh yeah, this is fine. We can just put some sheet metal screws. I thought this was part of the radiator core. It's not. This is just a bracket. So it's hollow. So we can actually just mark it and drill into the radiator itself. The fan shroud goes right into the radiator. So let's pull it out and do that. Okay, so here's the radiator on the bench. Here is the brackets and kind of what I was talking about on how they fit. So the upper and lower tabs fit like this. This is not part of the core like I initially thought. So we should be able just to center it so we have an even gap on either side like we do here. We're just going to mark this, or even just grab some self-tapper sheet metal screws and buzz into that top and bottom, and mounting our electric fans to the radiator is easy as that. Now, if you're in this trade or hobby for any amount of time, what you end up becoming is a hoarder of sorts. You end up getting a collection of different fasteners, screws, brackets, what have you. So I guess that'll work. They're not exactly the same, but they're pretty similar. Just kind of some self-tappers. I'm going to drill a pilot hole so it's a little easier. And it's a factory type looking bolt. It's got a captured washer. It'll work just fine for holding that rad on. If Sean doesn't like them, he can swap them out for some better looking bolts later. There you go, done like dinner, tickety-boo. Alrighty, so let's see if we can get the dipstick tube installed. So this just goes down into the factory hole in the block, seals with O-ring. So we're going to get some O-ring lube on here, some lubriplate, and that's going to go down into that hole right there down in the block. Whoop, come on. There we go. Focus. Focus. No? Anyway, so we'll get that lubed up. If you love it, lube it. We'll get it seated. Make sure it's down all the way, otherwise your oil level height will be screwed up. And then we're probably going to mount the tube to one of these header bolts so it's nice and secure and we're not blocking the spark plug wire access right there. So let's see if it works. Get in your hole! Just trying to grab the flange so I can, oh, it's going in. Let's see if I can pull this header bolt out. Oh, come on. And if we can get our bracket in there. There we go. Look at that. Tickety-boo. Fuck's sake. Alrighty. Well, I think we're done picking away at this thing for tonight. Let's have a look at what we did. Alrighty. So we swapped in a new coolant temp sensor. Sean got new sensors for this thing, so might as well put them in at this point in time. We double checked that the header bolts were all tight. We removed the remnants of whatever wiring was left in here. We double checked our steam hole or coolant bypass holes, that they were clean and the gaskets were there. So we found that it was dirty and there was a doubled up gasket on that side and the O-rings weren't kind of seated and everything. So we got those cleaned up and tightened. Same with the plugs at the rear. We played with the radiator mounts a little bit. We're missing one more grommet and Sean still has that upper bracket, but this is good enough for now. It's holding it in place. We got our electric fans mounted, right? So they're in there nice and secure. We got our Dipstick mounted into the block and bolted onto the cylinder head / header bolt. I got an O2 sensor bung, but to get to the pipe there